Alright, quick update on DogelonMars. So as the market for Bitcoin is heading down very, very fast, the crypto market, the stock market is crashing, I am going to be switching to some momentum indicators today instead of focusing on the RSI and the money flow indicator. So what I've added today is the EMA ribbon with both buy and sell signals, and also I'm looking at the squeeze mom, which is a momentum indicator. So starting off with the daily on Dogelon. To be honest, out of all the cryptos, or out of all the dog coins rather, that I look at, I think Dogecoin is only the second healthiest that I'm looking at right now. Elon still looks, obviously this is quite bearish what's going on right now, but Elon still necessarily hasn't flipped entirely bearish. I mean, we momentarily hopped above this 200-day. You can see this was a very, very strong level of support, and we fell through it very harshly. So on the daily specifically, we're really not looking too good, and you can see the squeeze mom momentum indicator is starting to head to the downside. And obviously, as we're quite extended already on the squeeze mom, it looks like this could definitely have one last very harsh flush out before we do have a reversal on DogelonMars. Now, personally, I'm not selling any of my Dogelon. I only have approximately maybe between 1.5 and 2% of my portfolio in Dogelon, so it really doesn't make too much of a difference to me. I am mainly in Bitcoin. If you watch my portfolio video, you know that I am about 55%. I really don't check the prices every day, but I'm about 55% in Bitcoin. So this quick flush out on a lot of the dog coins and the meme coins and the crypto market could be a good opportunity for me to put some of my Bitcoin into some of these altcoins if they do have a bounce. Now, that is a big if. Personally, I'm not looking to trade DogelonMars right now, because if we look at the daily, you can see we've been rejected, fallen off the 200-day, and I told you we really need to start breaking out the top of this bull flag if we're going to start talking about more bullish price targets all the way up here, and we never really did that. We kind of just sideways hopped out of it. I told you I'd be looking to buy if we back tested the 200-day and had a strong push up, and you can kind of just see that we rolled over to it and we never really did anything. So I haven't entered any more trades on DogelonMars. I am just holding the small amount that I hold. But once again, on the daily, I mean, the volume is picking up a tiny bit, and we're falling down very harshly. This orange line as well that you can see right here at the 947. I'm not going to include the 6 or 7 odd zeros at the start of every price target because I'll just be here for too long. But you can see this level here was the 618 Fibonacci. This is the most important level, and in my opinion, it's not looking too good that Dogelon has obviously fallen below it. Now, I mean, technically we can draw this down here, but I really don't want to be drawing or moving my fibs, every video or so. So, I mean, I can move it down to where the uptrend really started, because I mean, if you draw it from here to here, I think we had a back test of the 618. So I mean, in my opinion, the uptrend is still very valid to draw from down here. I'm not going to move it anymore though. I mean, there's really nowhere I can move it down to. So if we draw the 618 Fibonacci from here, you can see, in my opinion, this is the region that really needs to hold for Dogelon. But I mean, we also have the EMA ribbon right here as well, and this is still flipping green. So I'd say worst case scenario, I would like to not see any weekly closes below the 906, which is the 618 Fibonacci. But worst case scenario, I think if we backtest the 881 and have a strong push up on the daily, then that is really the best case scenario. If we start coming below 880, like if you're watching this video and you're looking at the chart and on the USD pair we're below 880, then in my opinion it could get very, very sticky. I mean, this is the daily. We've got a lot of momentum to go to the downside, especially if we do flip this EMA ribbon. So looking at the 4-hourly, this is really not good. You can see we got our long signal on the EMA ribbons all the way when we kind of flipped this but when we started to flip this EMA ribbon up here, and you can see it was a very strong level of support, we kept bouncing, back testing it. We momentarily fell through it here, but within the next 4 hours, we very much picked up below it. So I would call this a 4-hourly close on the bottom of the EMA. And now, from what I can tell, It looks like the top ribbon is going to be getting ready to flip the bottom ribbon, which is going to entail that we're going to flip red on the EMA ribbons, and this EMA chart is going to be firing a short signal. So I'm personally not looking to short DogelonMars, even though looking at this on the 4-hourly objectively, it does look like we're going to have one more flush out before we could potentially start to head up. And that is kind of my thoughts on what's happening with Bitcoin as well. I do think we can have one quick scare, one quick flip below the EMA ribbons down here at 43,000, potentially head down to as low as 42,500 before having a strong push up. But this is really my last line in the sand. I mean, 42.5, if we break below that, we really only have this big orange line down here, which is the 0.5 and the psychological level at 40,000. So if we do break below 42,500, I'm personally like I don't like shorting Bitcoin necessarily, especially when I do believe that the bottom is going to be somewhere near for Bitcoin. So I personally wouldn't be looking to short this, but I could potentially be looking to long if we do come down to as low as 39,400 on Bitcoin. So I'm going a tiny bit off topic because this is obviously an Elon video, but what's happening in Bitcoin, this selling volume that's happening in Bitcoin, the squeeze momentum heading down for Bitcoin, and you know, us coming down into these EMA ribbons, is going to have a dire effect on what's happening on DogelonMars. And that's why you can see on the 4-hourly it looks like we're about to flip these ribbons to the downside. So for DogelonMars, I really don't have a price target of this because I think this is going to move extremely euphoric whenever Bitcoin starts moving. But if we look at this on the daily, yeah, like I said, in the slightly more macro time frame, these EMA ribbons is really what I'm going to focus on. I think if we start coming below, like I said, 880, then, you know, I think Dogelon could have one quick, very nasty flush out to the downside before we do start picking momentum back to the upside. So while I'm personally very bearish on what's going to be happening in the next day or so, because, you know, squeeze momentum on the 4-hourly is heading to the downside, and on the daily it's heading very strongly down. We're seeing very, very strong selling volume as well on all of these time frames. So in my opinion, short term, this could be very, very bearish. We are still above the breakout of this bull flag, but I'm not necessarily 100%, you know, convinced that this is going to hold. So in my opinion, I think we're due for one quick flush out on Bitcoin. This is going to correlate to one quick move to the downside for DogelonMars, and especially if you see these EMA ribbons start to flip to the downside. I mean, if we start hanging out around this between the 907 and basically where we are now on this chart, then obviously these EMAs on the 4-hourly are going to flip bearish, and that's going to carry enough momentum for the squeeze mom to head to the downside, and we really could see one big super painful flush out for a lot of these cryptos in the short term. So that's really all I see for DogelonMars. This is the most important level, 907 on the 4-hourly or on all time frames really. The 907, that's your point. Was that the 0.5 or the 618? This is your 618. That's really your last line in the sand, in my opinion. It is going to get very, very ugly, in my opinion, if we do lose the not necessarily singularly the 907, but specifically between this range of 907 and 880. So I think if we start coming down below these regions, then, you know, it is going to be very, very ugly in the short term. So that is all I see for Dogelon. Best of luck if you're in it. Once again, none of this is financial advice, just my opinion on the market, and you've always got to do what's best for you. Cowboy out. Peace.